Hello and a very warm welcome to the Question Hour show from the Parliament House complex, where we bring you important unstarred questions that were asked by the members of the Rajya Sabha during the 249th session of the Upper House and the response given by the government in the written format. I'm Kruti Mishra and joining me is my colleague Vishal Daya.
Well, thank you so much, Kruti, and let's take our viewers through some questions. So the first question on today's show has been asked by member MB Rajiv Gaura, and this one is addressed to the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, wherein the member wants to know whether the government has taken any cognizance of various seed bankers in the country who are conserving native crops.
Well, the answer given by the government is an affirmative, and the government goes on to say that PPV and FR authority registers farmers' varieties, and till date 1,597 farmers' varieties have been registered with PPV and FRA, and certificates of registration have been issued. Further, the Protection of Plant Varieties and Farmers' Right Authority under the Section 39(1)(3) of PPV and FR Act 2001 annually confers 35 awards amounting to 85 lakh rupees to farmers, farming communities engaged in conservation of plant genetic resources and which have been used as donor of genes in varieties registrable under the Act. So far, 124 farmers or farming communities have received such awards. The government further goes on to say that ICAR, National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources, New Delhi, is conserving seed germplasm for long-term conservation at -20 degrees Celsius in its National Gene Bank, which is called NGB. NGB has the responsibility of conservation of plant genetic resources for posterity and sustainable use, including land rakes and traditional varieties, which are potential sources of agriculturally imported genes. Moving on to the next question asked by member Rakesh Sinha pertaining to the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers' Welfare. And Mr. Sinha has asked whether it is a fact that the crop residue burning is a great cause of pollution, skin disease in certain states of the country, and whether it is also a fact that the machinery available for management of crop residue is very expensive even after the subsidy that is given on such a machinery.
Well, the Agriculture Ministry in its answer says that among other factors, smoke from the burning of paddy crop residue by farmers in the states of Punjab, Haryana and Uttar Pradesh contribute to environmental pollution during the winter season, which increases the risk of human health hazards, including skin problems. However, as per satellite data, overall about 15% and 41% reduction in number of paddy residue burning events were observed in the year 2018 as compared to that in 2017 and 2016 respectively in these three states. Further, in response to the question on the cost of the machinery, the government says that after the applicable subsidy, that is 50% for individuals and 80% for groups, the cost of machinery works out to be reasonable, and this machinery can also be availed on rent through custom hiring centres. Well, the next question is to the Ministry of Animal Husbandry, Dairying and Fisheries, and this one has been asked by member T. Subbirami Reddy, who wants to know from the government about the details of schemes for the welfare of fishermen in the coastal areas.
So this response has been given by the Animal Husbandry Minister, and the government in the response goes on to say that Department of Fisheries, Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying has been implementing a centrally sponsored scheme on Blue Revolution. Integrated development and management of fisheries in all states and union territories, including the state of Andhra Pradesh, with a total central outlay of 3,000 crore rupees. The national scheme for welfare of fishermen is one of the components of this centrally sponsored scheme. The welfare activities covered under the component of National Scheme of Welfare of Fishermen are development of model fishermen village, group accident insurance for active fishermen and saving cum relief. The government further goes on to say that the Department of Fisheries, Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying under the centrally sponsored scheme provides financial assistance to the state governments, union territories for supporting the traditional artisanal fishermen for purchase of boats as a replacement for traditional wooden boats, including nets and assistance for deep sea fishing. Let's move on to the next question asked by member Ami Yagnik, and this one is to the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. And Ms. Yagnik has asked about the production capacity of urea and other fertilizers in the country.
Well, the Ministry of Fertilizers and Chemicals have responded to this question in detail, and the answer says that there are 44 major fertilizer manufacturing factories or units which are operational, and 8 fertilizer factories units of Central Public Sector Enterprises under administrative control of Department of Fertilizers are closed. Before the commencement of each cropping season, Department of Agriculture, Cooperation and Farmers Welfare, in consultation with all the state governments, assess the requirement of fertilizers. Now, after assessment of this requirement, DAC and FW projects month-wise requirement of fertilizers. On the basis of month-wise and state-wide projection given by DAC and FW, Department of Fertilizer allocates sufficient or adequate quantities of fertilizers to states by issuing monthly supply plan and continuously monitors the availability through the following system. First, the movement of all major subsidized fertilizer is being monitored throughout the country by an online web-based monitoring system called the Integrated Fertilizer Monitoring System, IFMS. The state governments are regularly advised to coordinate with manufacturers and importers of fertilizers for streamlining the supplies through timely placement of indents for railway rakes through their state institutional agencies like Markfed, etc. And lastly, the regular weekly video conference is conducted jointly by the Department of Agriculture and Cooperation and Farmers Welfare, Department of Fertilizer and Ministry of Railways with state agriculture officials, and corrective actions are taken to dispatch fertilizer as indicated by the state governments. The next question is to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, and this one has been asked by member Parimal Nathwani, who wants to know from the government whether it is a fact that it has given approval that gives preference to Make in India in government procurement under National Procurement Policy.
The government in its reply says that public procurement preference to Make in India Order 2017 as amended from time to time is an enabling provision to promote domestic value addition in public procurement. The policy aims at encouraging domestic manufacturers' participation in public procurement over entities merely importing to trade or assembling items. This order is applicable in procurement of goods and services and works including turnkey works by a central ministry, department, their attached or subordinate offices, autonomous bodies controlled by the Government of India and government companies. The government further says that as per the order, only local suppliers are eligible to bid for procurement up to 50 lakh rupees. However, for the items where there is sufficient local capacity and local competition, only local suppliers are eligible to bid irrespective of purchase value. For procurement where lowest bid, which is also called L1, is not by a local supplier, local suppliers get purchase preference. An effective grievance redressal mechanism has been implemented to ensure that restrictive and discriminatory clauses against local suppliers are not included in the bid documents. The government says that the order incentivizes participation of local industry in public procurement and hence gives boost to domestic manufacturing and services, leading to enhanced income levels and employment generation in the country. Let's move on to the next question asked by member Naranbhai Rathwa, and this one is also to the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. And Mr. Rathwa has asked whether any assistance and guidance is being provided separately to set up timber industry in the country.
Well, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry in its response says that there are no specific schemes under which any assistance and guidance is being provided separately to set up timber industry in the country. However, the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade under Ministry of Commerce and Industry has notified Northeast Industrial Development Scheme, that is NEIDS 2017. Now, this scheme is meant for granting incentives to new industrial units established in northeastern states, which also includes timber industry. Industrial Development Scheme IDS also exists for Himalayan states, namely Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand. Under the scheme, incentives are provided to all eligible new and existing units and for their substantial expansion located anywhere in the Himalayan states. Well, the last question in this section is addressed to the Ministry of Railways, and this one has been asked by member A.K. Selvaraj, who wants to know from the government whether it is a fact that shortage of rails has been bothering railways for quite some time now.
The government in its reply has said that the railway infrastructure in the country has been strengthened extensively in the last few years. Accordingly, rail supply is also increasing over the years. For renewal of railways and tracks and construction projects, 5.84, 6.46, 6.20, 8.74 and 10.50 lakh tons rail were supplied in 2014-15, 2015-16, 16-17, 17-18 and 2018-19 respectively. Supply of approximately 14.5 to 15 lakh tons rail is expected in the year 2019-20. The government further says that Ministry of Steel has been requested to direct Steel Authority of India Limited to further increase its production. In addition to SAIL, other private domestic manufacturer has been considered for rail supply since 2018-19. So Vishal, these were the questions that we could pack in this edition of Question Hour.
Well, yes, you're right, Kruti. And we'll take a short break here. After the break, our colleagues Arvind Singh and Preeti Singh will bring you some more questions in Prashn Kal. Stay tuned.